Hey everyone, this is the Peaceful Warrior here to give you my latest review slash rant of Naruto Chapter 602 entitled Alive. This is also a video response to King of Lightning's review of the same chapter as well. Um, a basic summary of this chapter, we start off in the flashbacks where Obito is in the bed, half of his body is crushed and bandaged, and he sees Madara, who's super old, with a sickle or a scythe, and Obito thinks he's the Japanese version of the Grim Reaper. And Madara's like, no, I'm not that. And then he goes on to say, I don't know how you're alive. It's a miracle. It's almost as though you somehow managed to slip through it, meaning that it's possible that Obito activated unknowingly his space-time migration jutsu to be able to avoid some of the damage from the impact of the boulder. And they just keep right along with the conversation. Obito doesn't question him about it. Madara doesn't elaborate about it, so it looks like that's all we're going to get in terms of how Obito was actually able to survive the rock slide. And I have a gripe about that, but I'll get to that later. So going on, Obito thanks Madara, and Madara's like, well, you don't want to thank me too soon because you are actually going to have a few things to do for me now that I've saved your life. And then there's this little joke about, is one of the favorites going to be Obito basically wiping Madara's butt as an old man? And Madara assures him that's not it. And then he begins to reveal his project Ski no May, or at least hints of it, in terms that Obito can understand. And right here, throughout this chapter, but particularly at this point, when we see Madara trying to explain the reasoning for his project Ski no May, we see Madara very pissed off, very grumpy. I mean, he is a grumpy, decrepit, troll-like old man, straight up. I mean, he obviously can't stand life as it is, and it's like you survived the fight with Hashirama for all of this, and you're pissed off, like, but whatever. So anyway, Obito tries to escape while Madara is giving this lecture. And Madara's like, if you try that, then the artificial body of Hashirama that I put on you is going to peel off and you will die. And I'm not anxious for you to do that because I did go to the trouble of saving you. But hey, if you want to go, then go. But there are no exits here, and in your condition, there's no way that you can leave here anyway, just like me. And Obito's like, dude, I don't care what you're saying. I got to get back to my friends. I have bonds out here. I can't just erase and cut off the life that I have to just remain down here indefinitely. And so Obito is very much invested in the world as he knows it. With his bond with, Rin, and his new formed friendship with Kakashi, and, they keep going on. And Madara pretty much says, like, look, if you want to get out of here, you're going to die. And I'll just take your Sharingan. And Obito's like, but dude, you already got a Sharingan. Why are you trying to take mine? And he's like, well, you need both of them in order to awaken their full potential. Besides, I left my real eyes to someone else. And immediately, the first person that comes to mind for a lot of people is Nagato. And because Madara says that he awakened the Rinnegan shortly before his death, and that he also gave the Rinnegan to Nagato. So that's it seems that seems to be the consensus in the anime and manga community concerning who this other person was that Madara gave his eyes to. I'll actually come back and talk about that a little bit later. But so but Madara is like, but you need both of them in order to awaken their full potential. And Obito, as he hears this, he's thinking to himself, that means that if he teams back up with Kakashi, he can reach his full potential. And together, they can both reach their full potential and be strong enough, not only to protect Ran, but the village and stuff like that. I'm kind of tossing that in there because I still don't like the fact that Obito is doing all of this. Like, his sole motivation for existing and being tied to the world seems to be Ran. I just, that still gets under my skin. As the main antagonist and arguably the best character in Naruto, his sole attention for doing all this is a crush that he had in his youth. But if you see my previous videos, you already know how I feel about that. So that pretty much is where the chapter ends, and Obito is chinning along, like King of Lightning said, as Naruto did after towards the tail end of his fight with Gaara. And he's just trying to get out of there. And in the background it says unyielding spirit. So that's pretty much where things have left off. So we're beginning to see, I guess that's how we're going to see how he was able to somehow survive that rock slide. Just in that casual conversation where Madara says, you just somehow managed to slip through it. And I think we're just supposed to understand that as Obito activating his space-time migration jutsu with only 2 Tomo Sharingan. I think that might be the only explanation that we get. And that seems to be the consensus around as well. The only way that I think that won't be the only explanation is if somehow in these flashbacks, probably in another 2 or 3 chapters, when Obito has settled into his new brainwashing by Madara and he's training and he tries to master his space-time migration jutsu so that he can actually use it, more effectively, he's then going to stumble upon how he was able to activate it and slip out of it when the rock came down on him. So that will be my only other guess as to how we would possibly get any more explanation about how exactly he was able to survive that boulder crash. But beyond that, Madara is on life support from the Mazo. And one of the things that I'm thinking about here is that he's on life support from the Mazo. And he clearly has, like, we clearly see this dude as the real Madara Uchiha, not a fake, but the real one, who's genuinely super old and on life support. And if you notice, his hair has stayed the same since his youth, except it's just very white and very gray. Now, if you take that and compare it with the Madara that we see recruiting Kasame, and controlling the 4th Mizukage, and conspiring with Itachi shortly before the massacre of the Uchiha, that Madara has Madara's real hair, but it's black. And that Madara doesn't look like an old and decrepit man. He looks like he's in his prime. And I know that some people have said, well, that can still be Obito. But I beg to differ, because those events are taking place right now. Okay? Those events have been going on. And it's like, so how is Obito still struggling along the ground like a little worm? Then you have the real Madara, who's pretty much on life support. How are either one of them in the position to do the things that we see the Madara doing, who is, like I said, controlling the 4th Mizukage, recruiting Kasame, and conspiring with Itachi shortly before the Uchiha massacre? I don't know. There just seems to be something off. It really does seem to be something off, and I don't want to yet say that Madara is Obito, because it just doesn't make sense how he's going to go from having short hair to long hair all of a sudden. Like, not only are you going to be switching bodies, but now you're going to be wearing wigs as well. I mean, that's going to be something else. So, yeah, but the other point that I wanted to bring up is how Obito is wearing an artificial body of Hashirama, or a prototype of Zetsu, as some have called it, including King of Lightning. And the interesting thing that I find out about this, and I want to be sure to get your thoughts on this because I believe this is very crucial. Hashirama's body, as I think that his body is really the key to this war, because you need to understand that I know Madara is supposed to be stealing the show during this war. I know he's supposed to be the holy grail of the ninja world, so to speak, or at least his body is. But Madara is dependent upon Hashirama's power. Okay, he's dependent upon Hashirama's power. And there are still things, especially confirmed in this chapter, that we don't yet know about Hashirama's body. And I believe he's the key, because if you go back to chapter 576, when Madara is pretty much taunting the five Kages, and he's especially taunting Tsunade, he's like, Hashirama's techniques were on an entirely different scale than yours, and he was able to heal himself without even using hand signs. So then when you think about Hashirama's ability to heal himself without using hand signs, and you think about how Madara put an artificial body of Hashirama onto Obito so that Obito can be healed. And if you think about the fact that in the last chapter, chapter 601, when Obito and Madara are side by side talking with one another, the scar from the Rasengan that Kakashi transported to the dimension that he shares with Obito disappears. It literally just disappears out of nowhere. And so I think that those three things are connected. The sudden disappearance of the scar from Naruto's Rasengan that Kakashi transported using Kamui. Madara's claim that Hashirama was able to heal himself without using hand signs. And the fact that Madara is using an artificial body of Hashirama in order to basically heal Obito from his wounds that he suffered during the rock slide. Those three things are connected. So there are still secrets about Hashirama's body that we don't yet know. And so I don't want that point to be missed. And I really want to hear you all's thoughts about that. Besides that, I really like how Obito's first instinct was teamwork when he heard Madara talk about how, you need both eyes to awaken their true potential. He immediately thinks, okay, I don't need to steal my other eye back from Kakashi, as, Toby would, but not Obito. Obito doesn't think like that, but that's something that Toby would think about. Obito instead thinks, together, me and Kakashi can unlock our full potential. I can become stronger and unlock my full potential working together with Kakashi. And together, nothing can be impossible for us. And I really just like that. Not simply because teamwork is a good theme of Naruto, but because that's also a theme that I happen to espouse very seriously. And I think the last point that deserves extraordinary scrutiny is how Madara says that he gave his real eyes to someone else. And I understand that the consensus around this is that this other person who he gave his real eyes to is Nagato. Which it would make sense in a way, because by the time we're seeing this flashback, it's during the course of the Third Ninja World War, Well, during the Second Ninja World War, that's when we see Nagato using the Rinnegan. So by this time, he is a full-fledged Akatsuki member and founder, along with Conan and Yahiko. So who knows? But I still think that there's a possibility that someone else may be at work. So I really want to hear you all's thoughts about that. But beyond that, I think the major point that we ought not miss, and I want to get everybody's opinions about this, is that Obito was found by Madara by accident. It was not something purposeful. Now, see, this is huge to me, because Obito was not a part of the original plan. As a matter of fact, by the time Obito is rescued by Madara, Madara's plan is already in effect. He's already given his Rinnegan, to Nagato. So he's already entrusted the plan to Nagato, in other words. So it's like, why would he go to the lengths he did, first of all, to rescue Obito, and second of all, to involve him in the plan? Like, was he supposed to be insurance, in other words? I mean, that's my only guess, but it just kind of goes to the whole downfall of Obito and Toby's character, because you would expect that Obito would have been involved in this from the start, because Toby is just that kind of character where he's going to be involved in the plans from the beginning. He's not going to be recruited. But, I mean, obviously that's what we have right now. Like, Obito is rescued by accident and then is brainwashed. Like, that appears to be where we're going. If that's the case, it just kind of goes to the massive disappointment I have with the direction that Kishimoto has decided to go in terms of Obi/Tobito's character. Just disappointing. Very, very disappointing. But yeah, I really want to get you all's thoughts about that, because it's almost as though Obito is Madara's trump card, if you will. Like, it's funny because Obito is almost like Madara's trump card, his ace in the hole, and Kabuto used Madara as a trump card against Obito. So, it's just weird. It's a little bit of parody there. And like I said, I definitely want to get your opinions about it. So, thanks a lot. I look forward to your comments. As usual, rate and subscribe and well. All right, peace.